Welcome to All Earth Environmental's water sampling video. Equipment: sampling jars, dipper, wooden stakes, measuring tape, gloves, reflective vest. Protective eyewear is optional but recommended. Procedure: the first step is to measure out the distance of your sampling area. The next step is to determine your specific sampling spots by putting an equal distance between each specific sampling spot by dividing the distance of the entire sampling area by the number of samples you are taking. Sampling spots may have to be slightly moved to avoid certain obstacles that would inhibit the sampling process. When you are taking your samples, make sure that you start at the sample spot that is most downstream and move upstream, as to prevent contamination of samples. Carefully dip the dipper into the water, making sure not to disturb the sediment. Bring the dipper out of the water and pour the sample into the sampling jar. Fill it about halfway. Next, take the pH of the part of the sample remaining in the dipper. When taking your pH reading, make sure that the bulb in the meter is completely submerged, yet not touching the bottom or the sides of the dipper. It may take up to a minute for the reading to stabilize. It is also recommended that multiple readings are taken to ensure precision of the measurement. After you have taken the pH readings, dispose of the remaining fluid on the opposite side of the body of water. Do not put the sampling back in the water. Make sure you rinse your pH meter, both inside and outside of the dipper, with distilled water after each use to prevent cross-contamination. Make sure that each sample is labeled properly. Each sample label should include the sample number, the name of the person who took the sample, and the location of the sampling site. A chain of custody form is essential to the QA/QC process. It ensures that the samples remain uncontaminated, and if the samples do become contaminated, it can be used to track who is responsible for the mishandling of the sample. Another essential part of the QA/QC is taking control of samples. The video here shows how to take a field duplicate sample. This is done by taking two samples from the exact same spot, homogenizing them, and then separating them into two sample jars. Another type of control sample is a rinse-aid sample. This is done by rinsing the dipper with distilled water to decontaminate it as much as possible. Then rinse it again, but this time catching the rinsed water in a sample jar. The third type of control sample is a trip sample. This is taken by filling a sample jar with distilled water in a lab prior to going into the field to take your sample. Carry the sample with you so that any possible contaminants that may be encountered while transporting the samples may be detected.